watching Reason and Theology Live. The show concentrates on theological topics, historical matters, and philosophical problems with content ranging from introductory material to in-depth examinations. And now, your host, Michael Lofton.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Your host, Michael, here on a Thursday. All kinds of stuff going on. Of course, I imagine most of us are already familiar with the news taking place right now with the war with Russia invading Ukraine. Very, very sad stuff. So let's definitely pray for all of the souls involved. Now, in order to maybe address some of the things that I've been seeing going on online concerning the consecration of Fatima and how this might impact the war that's taking place, I've brought on Kevin Symonds because he's definitely an expert when it comes to Our Lady of Fatima and matters pertaining to the consecration. So before we dive in, though, welcome back to the show, Kevin. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing all right. Just enjoying my new office studio down here and end of a work day. So going all right.
Looks
Other than
good.
terrible news, of course.
I like the green screen.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's taken a little while to get it key framed and all that just right, but I think I figured it out.
Yeah, it looks really well done. Well, look, you are definitely, in my opinion, the expert when it comes to Our Lady of Fatima. Now, I know I've had you on the show multiple times. In fact, we've done an entire series on Fatima, and we have touched on the issue of consecration. But since this is now resurfacing once again in Catholic circles, especially the claim that we need to consecrate Russia and that will address the war that's going on and there will be peace and the heirs of Russia won't be spread at this time. In order to address that claim, since it's once again resurfacing, I wanted to bring you on and briefly talk about that. So, yeah, what's your opinion kind of here in general, seeing on social media people saying that, well, we need to consecrate Russia and that would really take care of the issue that's going on right now with Russia and Ukraine?
Absolutely irresponsible.
And why is that?
Absolutely irresponsible. Well, first, I'm going to make another flat out statement. People are barking up the wrong tree. Russia was consecrated in 1984 by Pope John Paul II. The seer of Fatima, Sister Lucia, affirmed this in writing. And the last time we talked about this, I was away visiting family in another state. But now that I'm home, I've got all of my Fatima books here, and I brought up her book, Come Vejo a Mensagem. Now I actually have the text, and I'm going to read even more that's going to blow people's minds, because I'm getting sick and tired of this nonsense. People are barking up the wrong tree. They're borderline sinning by superstitious practices, and we've got to stop this. This is absolutely nuts.
What do you mean by superstitious practices? Clarify that.
People think that for instance, Taylor Marshall today had a little Twitter fest in which he made some irresponsible statements. And one of them was that Russia wasn't mentioned in the 1984 consecration. He neglects to tell people that there is a point where the Pope goes silent, and in his heart, he mentions Russia. He didn't verbalize it, but he said it in his heart. And so, and even still, that aside, Russia being part of the world when the world was consecrated to the Immaculate Heart, the fact of the matter is, it was accepted in heaven. Sister Lucia has said this.
Where?
People stop this nonsense. She says it right here, like what I read in that book, Como Vejo a Mensagem. She says it's right here on pages. It begins on page, the area in question begins on page 53 in the Portuguese.
And what again is this? Once again, what is this book?
This is one of Sister Lucia's last books that she wrote. It was published shortly after her death. I believe this is a second edition of the book, but it came out around 2006. Yep, it's right here in English. I got the English text right here.
Okay.
So, and the English translation in the area that I'm we're quoting from is essentially accurate to the Portuguese.
Okay.
But she starts. It's how I see the message after time have passed, like what are Sister's reflections on this? And she talks about and reflects upon Our Lady's words about the consecration of Russia. And this, I'm not going to go for the English. I'm going to read straight out of the Portuguese for this part. She says very, very, very simply, in the end, that is, after all of these things that have happened, these terrible things, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. From all the wars promoted in all the world by the spreading of errors by Russia. Now, this is an off the top of my head translation of the Portuguese, and then she reflects on Our Lady's words, the Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me and she will be converted. And then Sister Lucia clearly says, the word will convert, which is from the word conversion, that is to say, to have a change from bad to good, de mal para bem. And then she continues on Our Lady's words, and it will be conceded to the world sometime, algum tempo de paz, a sometime of peace. Now, this is, then Lucia goes back to what to her reflection. She says, this promise of peace refers to the wars promoted in all the world by the errors spread by Russia. And then unequivocally, these are the words, this consecration, which one? The one that she just talked about, quoting the Virgin Mary, was done by the Holy Father, John Paul II, in Rome publicly on the 25th of March, 1984, before the image of Our Lady that is venerated in the Chapel of Apparitions in the Cova de Ira Fatima. And it's very clear. I mean, there's no question about this. Esta consagração foi feita pelo Santo Padre João Paulo II em Roma, publicamente no dia 25th de março in the year 1984. It's very, very clear. And the demonstrative pronoun, is esta, refers back to what she just mentioned, which is Our Lady's words about the consecration. So even Sister Lucia said it was done in 1984.
But what about those who are going to say, but she's wrong? She misunderstood the Virgin Mary, and we don't have to agree with her on this.
It's true that a visionary could misunderstand or misinterpret some part of the message. That's true. But given the fact that Our Lady appeared to Sister Lucia in October of 1984 and talked to her, which, of course, this would have been about 7 months after the consecration, if you're having continual conversations with the Mother of God, to my mind, you're having a higher threshold to come up with some kind of error here.
Yeah.
And we know about this apparition because the Carmelites of Coimbra, where Sister Lucia lived for the last 50 or so over 50 years of her life, published a biography based upon published and unpublished documents from Sister Lucia, and they have a whole chapter on the later apparitions. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and that it's described there in their biography. It's in Portuguese as well as English translation.
Now, what about those who are going to say, oh, well, of course she's going to say this, but this isn't the real Sister Lucy. This is a fake one that the Vatican installed to cover up its whole scheme. What would you say about that?
I was going to go for this all today. You're just running down the list here. You're saving a lot of trouble. It's absolute hogwash. It's people trying to grasp the incomprehensible. That whole fake Lucia thing is just nonsense. It's nothing more than people trying to grasp something that they are not capable, quite frankly, many people are incapable of doing the hard work and looking at what Sister Lucia said. Because one of the theories that's driving this thing is, why did Sister Lucia say one thing at this point in time and then later on say another? You know, instead of actually going back and saying, maybe I misunderstood about something that the message of Fatima. Instead, they're just creating this hogwash opinion, up to and including paying tens of thousands of dollars to hire former FBI people to do technological analyses on Sister Lucia. Absolute waste of money, time, energy, and resources. When I've actually done a little research into this. People think that science is settled, that technology is good. Do you know that there's an actual report about some of this technology identifying Michelle Obama as a man? Look, it's IBM. IBM doesn't even provide the technology anymore. And according to one news article, and unless it's fake news, unless it's a not reputable news story, people are putting all of their eggs in this basket of this imposter Lucia stuff, and because they've got tens of thousands of dollars invested in this stuff. I'm not an expert in facial recognition technology, but even IBM has weighed in on this and said that, in fact, this facial recognition technology stuff, it does have its flaws, and some of these flaws work against certain people, including women. The report that I read said. So, of course, I have no reason to believe that this argument based upon the facial recognition technology, I don't care what credentials follow the people who are promoting this and sign off on the recognitions and whatnot. Just to give you another example, I had the book, and of course, okay, here it is. Okay. About 5 years ago, the Spanish writer Jose Maria Zavala published this book about the secret that is a Fatima that's guarded. And part of this book was based upon how in his spam email, I think, he got an email supposedly with a document that was supposed to be the real third secret, the so-called fourth secret of Fatima. He did, and I kid you not, I've got the whole thing. He actually submitted this to analyses where people were trying to point the handwriting and everything else. Well, the document is totally fake. And we know it's a fake because when you look at how it's argued, so for instance, it perfectly falls within the question of the 20 to 25 lines of text. Well, there was no such document. That was based upon a misunderstanding. But because people honestly believe the 20 to 25 lines of text, somehow somebody then must have created this fake document, and then he submitted it to all of this. Mr. Zavala submitted it to the technological stuff, and they're trying to say, well, it looks authentic because the handwriting looks the same. Who cares? It's not perfect. It's not a perfect science. I go back to one thing with this stuff in particular, with the fake Lucy hypothesis, which is, in order for that theory to be true, that hypothesis, you're talking about a continued, sustained effort for nearly 60 years or 60-something years. How is that possible? I mean, you're talking, it's so far out there as to defy belief. So no, there's no fake Lucy. There's no fourth secret of Fatima, at least insofar as how people have tried to argue this historically. And the consecration of Russia was done in 1984. People have got to stop this nonsense. Now, pastorally, I understand why people do this. They need a security blanket. They're trying to make sense of everything that's going on around them. But quite frankly, you're going to get me fired up when you make inappropriate and irresponsible statements like Taylor Marshall, who said, and I'll pull it up here, who said on Twitter today, quote, remember every Catholic expert that told you, quote, John Paul II properly consecrated Russia, end quote? They lied to you. I got everything. I can share the screen. I got it pulled up here. You can see it. Everybody can see it for themselves. He actually said that people like myself and others have lied. Okay, now he's accusing us all of malice, actual malice.
On what basis does he say this is a lie?
He doesn't say anything. No, he doesn't say anything.
The fact that there's war right now, is that his evidence?
Well, that's certainly behind what he's saying, but he doesn't state causal relationship. He just simply puts this statement out there, and he doesn't back it up. He doesn't sit there and say, well, they lied to you because I have an email, or there's a found audio recording of John Paul II saying that he made it all. Nothing like that. This is borderline actual malice. I mean, I'm actually speaking in the proper legal term. We heard this term recently with Hillary Clinton speaking of Fox News and the John Durham report. She said that they were getting awfully close to actual malice. We also saw it recently with the Sarah Palin suing New York Times. the jury and the judge decided that her lawsuit didn't rise to the level, the suit didn't rise to the level of actual malice, in which case she would have won had that been the case. But this is just irresponsible. This is absolutely irresponsible. But you know what? Whatever gets those clicks, right? Whatever gets those clicks and sells the book.
Well, what would you?
I hear he's 3,000 pages into it. Can't wait to tell everybody. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but this
and I have another question, but
this is just inappropriate.
And I have another question here, but let me remind everybody to take a look at our sponsor, Real Estate for Life. If you're looking to find a new home and would appreciate somebody to help you, find a new home in your area or even sell your home. If you want a realtor who shares your beliefs, definitely check them out, realestateforlife.org, and be sure to tell them Reason of Theology sent you. I have another question. What would you say to those who note, well, didn't the Virgin Mary say that there will be peace if Russia is consecrated, and we don't see peace right now? We see wars, therefore it wasn't consecrated. What would you say to that argument?
Well, I just want to give a caveat to everybody watching. You and I did not plan beforehand how this was going to go. You asked me only like 2 or 3 hours ago for this. We didn't have an outline, but right. You're getting every issue that I was hoping to get.
Everything that you were going to cover it all.
Well, yeah, some of this stuff some of these things need to be said and clarified. What people don't realize is what we avoided with the 1984 consecration. Okay. Let me be very clear. And going back to Sister Lucia's book, Como Vejo a Mensagem. Now, on this one, I will refer to the English because I don't have the actual Portuguese prepared to be able to make intelligent observations from it. But again, the English is fairly reliable from what I can tell. But what people don't realize, the 84, we were going to have a nuclear fallout. There was going to be a nuclear holocaust. People don't realize this, but we were. We were headed for nuclear war. Russia, the United States, NATO. We were all going to blow each other up in the mid-1980s. Sister Lucia is very explicit about this. Here's what she says on page 54 of the English translation of Como Vejo. Quote, "Everyone knows very well that was one of the most critical moments in the history of humanity, that is the mid-80s, when the great powers, hostile to one another, were planning and preparing for a nuclear war which would destroy the world, if not entirely, to a considerable extent. And what chances of survival would there be for the part that would be left?" Now, this is what we didn't get into back in December. What else she says on this score in the book? She says, after all this, there are still blind people who cannot see or do not wish to see, and who say, but there are still wars going on in the world, and Our Lady promised peace. Does this not sound familiar, Mr. Lofton?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Our Lady promised peace in reference to the wars provoked throughout the world by atheistic communism, without referring to civil wars, which there have always been and will always be, until it pleases God to change this world, as Jesus Christ said, into a new earth and a new heaven, like the little seed that dies when thrown into the earth, and then from this apparent death there bursts forth new life in a more vigorous plant, filling the atmosphere with the scent of a more beautiful flower and producing tastier and more delicate fruits. But this day has not yet come. It will come when God has predestined it in accordance with the plans of his immense mercy. And then she says it again. The promise of peace this is page 56, refers to the wars provoked throughout the world by atheistic communism, and it is over these wars that the lady said that her Immaculate Heart would triumph. It is to this that she is referring. And then on page 57, up to this point, I see in the message, as it were, a preparation to release the people of God, in the words of Pius XII, from the greatest heresy to appear at any time in the world and carrying its errors to the ends of the earth, and also from the danger of a nuclear war which would destroy a great part of his creative and redemptive work, the people of God chosen for eternal life. I don't know how much clearer she can make it. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. But at this point, I think we're so far down the rabbit hole of stupidity. She could come back from the dead and point to all these people and sit there and go, wrong, 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 wrong. And they'd sit there and go, you're a demon, you know. It's kind of like that YouTube channel, Lutheran Satire. Did you ever get a chance to watch their video?
I saw that.
Chipmunks, you know?
Yeah.
And like God comes down and goes, silence, 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 you know, and then he reprimands them all, and they're like, whoa, this changes everything. And then they do a cutscene back to and they're protesting outside the gates of heaven, going, you hate you, you hate you, you hate you, and your kingdom smells like poo. You know, this is basically what's going on here. No matter what you say, it doesn't matter. People, but I call it the Back to the Future rule. What has happened here? If you remember in the second Back to the Future movie, Marty, Doc, and Jennifer go to 2015, right? And they see the future. Well, old Biff finds out about the time machine, goes back in time through the DeLorean to the 1950s and changes history. So much so that when Doc and Marty and Jennifer go back to the DeLorean to 1985, it's what Doc Brown later in the movie called the alternate 1985. Well, it's kind of funny that we're seeing this because the year 85 is mid-80s, roughly around the time where this prophesied nuclear war would have taken place. So we had an alternate 1985. Humanity was at a crossroads. And because of the consecration, we avoided this, and we never knew what could have happened, what might have happened. So we don't think in that way. People are not looking at the evidence. The fact of the matter is, communism fell. It didn't die. Communism fell in Russia in the early 90s. And around that time, Pope St. John Paul II publishes Centesimus Annus, and he warned us. He tried to tell everybody that communism and the ideas behind communism are not dead. If we are not careful, they could come back. Well, we're now 30 years away from Centesimus Annus, that John Paul's social encyclical, and one of them anyway. And I think it's safe to say, after the Cold War, we treated Russia badly. We in the West, we treated it like the defeated enemy. It was. Russia was defeated. But we basically went nana nana boo boo. You suck. You lost. You're the loser. And instead of extending the hand of friendship and trying to offer them an authentic democracy, we failed. We failed as Christians in the West to do this. And now we have this madman, Putin, doing what he's doing there in Russia. And people are trying to connect it back to Fatima. And I'm like, you're doing it all wrong. You are doing it all wrong. You're arguing this completely wrong. You've got it backwards. Okay. We have had that period of peace, referring to the atheistic wars sparked by atheistic communism. This is not, we're in a different, this is a different ball game. Okay. Basically is what I'm trying to say here. But people are not reading the signs of the times, so to speak, correctly. And we essentially have brought this on ourselves. It's comparable to what happened when the powers defeated Germany in World War I. The Treaty of Versailles happened, and that treated the Germans so badly that we got Hitler. This is what it's the same. I'm failing to see how this is not a comparable historical example. I mean, maybe there's some really smart people out there that can disprove it, but as far from where I sit, it looks an awful lot to me like the same situation. We had a chance to bring Russia into a true democratic country, but we got Putin instead, who thinks like this is the 19th century and he's trying to revive the glories of the old Russian Empire. And it's 2022. The world has moved on. But when I don't know Eastern politics half as well as other people that I know, but I do have a close advisor who is a Byzantine Catholic priest and has studied this stuff. And from our conversations, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. All of the ins and outs. But right now, you have some Russophiles, particularly those in Rokor, who have been trying to paint Putin as a living saint, and it's like he's a madman. Do you not understand this? And they've been influencing various Catholics to this Russophile way of thinking, and it's just like, I think I missed a memo somewhere. I was absent from class that day, and I mean no disrespect to people, but it just shows you how much of a spell has been put over people. I mean, Ukraine would not have been, if for one thing, it doesn't have nukes. There was an actual agreement, I forget the name of it, that they had signed, and they had divested themselves. They had of their nuclear arsenal left over from the Soviet era, and they did it only with the guarantee that should something go south, they would have the backing of other nations. Well, congratulations, this is it. I mean, this is that moment, So your Tucker Carlsons, all these other people running around making statements about being isolationists. Why do we care? We need to care more about our southern border versus Ukraine. This is stupid. It's irresponsible. And trying to blame Fatima for this, or trying to say Russia needs to be properly consecrated, at that point, you never argue with an idiot. They will only beat you. They will only drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. That's just that's one of the reasons why I don't respond to certain things. People say, "Why don't you make this video?" It's like, no, I've got better things to do. But it just people are just being irresponsible. And when I see these statements from Taylor Marshall calling people like myself liars, it's not fair. It's really, really not fair. It's irresponsible. And I sooner or later, he's going to be called to account for these sorts of things. Now, I'm not saying I have some kind of knowledge or about some effort to do just that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general, when you make irresponsible statements like this, they're going to come back to bite you in the end. It is what it is. People like him are so ensconced in their positions, they can't back out. They just can't. They have to keep on going full forward. Dr. Marshall used to work in higher academics. Well, based upon what he's done, nobody in higher academia would hire. He's basically made himself unhireable. So how is he going to then turn around and support his family if he can't get involved with a doctorate in higher academia? Now, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to go off and speculate because that might have already been too much just to say that. But the fact of the matter is he's destroying himself, and he's destroying a lot of people around with him. I remember watching a video of Matt Fradd talking about Taylor Marshall, and I'm pretty sure he was trying to be respectful and diplomatic, but he made the statement that Taylor Marshall, he's like, I understand. He's like, I get it. He's like, Taylor Marshall's leading people to tradition, even though I may disagree with him on some things. He's very polite about it. But I just wanted to turn around on Mr. Fradd and go, no, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think he's leading people to tradition. I think he's leading them to perdition, if I may use the old term.
Yeah, I don't think he's leading them to authentic Catholic tradition. I think that he's leading them to a superficial understanding of what is traditional Catholicism that is, as you noted, very dangerous. So I would agree with you on that one.
He's very suggestible, very. I don't want to skid. I'm actually been thinking about this concept of human nature and human psychology. I'm not sure of the words just yet to describe it, but easily excitable, and the Italians have the word zelanti, and it was used in when I was reading it in a book about the Vatican in the 1910s, I think it was. It was used to refer to the people who, in reference to the Roman question about how can you have two sovereigns in the same city of Rome, the Pope and the King of Italy. They used that term zelanti to refer to people who were trying to maintain the old order at all costs, not realizing the changed historical situation. And I think that term zelanti definitely appears to some people within the radical traditionalist camp. I don't like the terms rad trads, alt-right, neocons. I mean, I use them because they're for convenience and ease, but I have finer meanings there, I think, that are there. But somebody in the chat's asking what word? Zelanti, Zelanti, I think was how they spelled it. Actually, I think the guy is Italian, Santo Anello, Holy Ring. Anyway, it's getting to be too much, and I feel so bad for these people that are getting influenced by folks that are pushing these conspiracies and all the rest of this stuff. It really is.
Yeah. Now, we got another show coming up here in about 25 minutes, so we're going to wrap this one up. But go ahead and put in a plug. I think you're working on something with Fatima, a series of lectures or something that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. A few years ago, I was doing an online course, massive open online course on the third part of The Secret of Fatima. And in light of recent things that have developed, I decided to bring it back. So I've been updating it, working on the PowerPoints and the videos, and I've got to get some of the course packets together again and make sure everything's all in order. But that is coming along. I think we had talked about it once before briefly in another show several weeks ago, but it is coming along. Really happy to say that. I'm hoping to have it out roughly around the beginning of Lent. So I'm hoping to maybe have advertisement here and certainly on my website, but maybe some other places. But so, to stay tuned, and hopefully we'll see you guys there for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this, especially last minute. I know I asked you just a couple hours ago, so thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. It's always a pleasure being here.
We'll have you back on soon. Everybody, thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Join and become a member of this channel. If you would like to support us, just simply hit that join button there below the screen, and you'll get access to extra perks. Or you can support me on patreon.com/Reason and Theology and get access to extra perks there as well. All right, that's going to do it. We'll see y'all in about 20 minutes. We have a roundtable on Protestantism with actually quite a few people. Dr. He's actually Father and Dr. Deacon Tony Dragani, Joe Heschmeyer, and also Dr. Matthew Levering. He's going to be coming on too. So we'll be doing that here in about 20 minutes. So y'all look forward to that in just a little bit. We'll see y'all. God bless.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home, office, or any kind of property anywhere in the world, you're going to want to call Real Estate for Life, and they're going to connect you with a Catholic agent. Now, that agent will donate a portion of their commission upon sale, and Real Estate for Life will donate 75% of that gift to a pro-life organization at no cost to you. Call Real Estate for Life at 1-877-LIFE-US1 or text them 248-431-1440. If you care about the pro-life cause, call them now.